Bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, folks. That's right. Kenny Clark gets paid. He gets paid. He gets paid. He gets paid. All right. Is it safe to say that the bag alerts are going to be coming back with a vengeance? I don't know. We'll keep a close eye on that. But anyway, let's get into these topics, all right? How does Kenny Clark's deal affect ongoing negotiations for defensive tackles are looking for a deal, as well as future free agent defensive tackles, and why the defensive lineman market is continuing to rise? All of this and more. Oh, well, wait, I forgot. Breaking news. Breaking news. Jordan Love is holding out a training camp, okay? Is this a major thing? Is this a small thing? What's the reason? We're going to talk about all of this and more on the 16th episode, okay? 16th. We're not too far away from 20. The 16th episode of the Football's Junkies podcast. I am your host, your GM, who still is not on a team right now, but who already has 3 mock drafts 3 years in advance before anyone has it. Kale, let's get it. All right, folks. So, as I have previously said, defensive tackle for the Packers, Kenny Clark, has inked, all right, a 3-year, $64 million extension. He gets a $17.5 million signing bonus, and he averages around $21 million a year. And his base salary is $15.5 million, according to Spot Rack. Shout out to who? Spot Rack. Okay. Now, when we look at Kenny Clark, okay, Kenny Clark is someone who, you know, he's not going to be this flashy defensive tackle like an Aaron Donald or Chris Jones that's just, you know, going to put up these crazy numbers and whatnot. But he does his job phenomenally when it comes to holding that defensive line for the Packers. Okay, he has been an anchor for them for a long time, and his stats show this past season, right? So when you look at the 2023 season, right? So Kenny Clark had 3 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, 7.5 sacks, 16 quarterback hits, 9 tackles for losses. Okay. Now, when you look at that, you're probably thinking, oh, those aren't really good stats. But for a defensive tackle, that's actually really good. That's really productive. You're talking about somebody who has been very consistent, you know, since entering into the league. Okay. You're talking about somebody who he's going to get the job done. When you need him to get the job done, Kenny Clark is going to get the job done. That's just what it is. Now when you look at, you know, the highest paid defensive tackles, he just got there. Okay, he just crushed into the top 10. Okay, so when you look at, you know, the highest paid defensive tackles, you have Chris Jones, of course, $31.7 million, Christian Wilkins, $27.5, Justin Matabuke, $24.5, Derek Brown and Quentin Williams, $24 million, Jeffrey Simmons, $23.5, DeForest Buckner, $23 million, Deron Payne, $22.5, Dexter Lawrence, $21.8, and Kenny Clark at $21.3. Now, when we look at all of this, right, you're probably thinking, oh man, well, you know, the market's continuing to rise a little bit. I wonder why it's rising. The reason why is because, you know, since I could probably go as far back as J.J. Watt, you know, the defensive linemen have become more and more impactful in the game, right? Now, you're probably thinking, well, there's only a few people. No, when you really look at it, from J.J. Watt to Aaron Donald, who just who just retired not too long ago, and now you have Chris Jones. You have very impactful defensive linemen. And so what happens is when you have those type of players to come into the league, guess what's going to happen? The value for the entire position is just going to go up. Regardless if those guys are, the creme de la creme at their position, just know there's going to be other people behind them. So when you have a Derek Brown, a Dexter Lawrence, a Deron Payne, a DeForest Buckner, a Javon Hargrave, people like that, guess what? They're going to get paid as well, because why? They're consistent, they're productive, and when you need them to make a play, they're going to make a play. Not to mention, offensive linemen they're not as scouted and as valued as much as a defensive lineman, right? Case in point, you will see a defensive lineman get drafted in the first round, top 5, or even top 3, right? But when you look at, centers, or you look at guards, or even tackles, not a lot of times they are drafted, that high up. And if they are, then they are a rare breed within their position, right? When you have someone like a Trent Williams, for instance, like a Ronnie Stanley or a Laremy Tunsil, or, whatever the case may be. When you have those type of players, guess what? Of course, they're going to be taken pretty high. But when you have someone like a Chris Jones, that's an automatic. That's an automatic for a first round pick. Automatically. He's going to get drafted in the first round. When you have someone like a J.J. Watt, he's going to get drafted in the first round. Those type of players. And, as well as when you look at, how can I say this? Within the past few drafts, we have started to see a shift with defensive linemen, right? Instead of them being, the old school big guys, it's like 320 some pounds, and it's just, they just use their power and their strength to just, bulldozer people to try to get to the quarterback. You are dealing with somewhat of a revolution. Well, not a revolution, but somewhat of a transformation, where defensive linemen are these smaller stature defensive linemen, but who are quick. I'm talking about super quick. They can, they can finesse you. They can use their power. They come from a wrestling background. They may not come from a wrestling background. You're dealing with people who their repertoire is a little bit different than what it was, in my generation and whatnot. And it shows when you have someone like an Aaron Donald who, when you look at Aaron Donald, you're probably thinking, man, that dude can't do nothing. But when you turn on that tape, guess what? You're talking about somebody who is steamrolling centers, guards, both guards, center and guard, whatever you want. He is steamrolling them with little to no problem. So I say all that to say this. The defensive line market is going to continue to rise, whether we want to admit it or not, okay? And it shows when you look at, the ongoing contract negotiations for someone like a Cameron Hayward. With Kenny Clark getting his deal, what's going to happen now is Cam is probably going to say, hey, I can do better than what he's done. My stats show this, and this, right? But at the same time, the Steelers may try to use Kenny Clark's deal and then probably say, we'll probably give you this. We can give you this. We're not going to give you, top 5 highest paid, and rightfully so. But at the same time, if you're someone, like a Cameron Hayward or a defensive lineman who's about to be a free agent, you do have to look at, the market continue to rise, and you do want to try to see if you can get at least a piece of the pie, right? Because when you look at next year's defensive tackle free agency class, just strictly them, you have Cam Hayward, of course. You have Malik Collins. You have David Godchild. You have DJ Jones. You have BJ Hill. You have Harrison Phillips. And you have Javon Kinlaw, just to name a few, right? Now, when you break down their market value, unfortunately, there's probably only 2 people that actually had their market value actually shown. Everybody else's wasn't shown, so I just left that alone. But when you look at Cameron Hayward's market value, right? It's a 3-year, $58.8 million deal. So he'll be making 19.6 million a year, right? When you look at Javon Kinlaw's market value, it's only a 1 year, $6.8 million deal. Now, you're probably wondering, why their value so low? Now, they could be attributed to different things, whether it be age, production, lack of, playing time, whatever the case may be, right? I don't know because I don't come up with the stuff for the market values for Spot Rack. But what I can say is someone like a Cam Hayward, he probably will get one more big payday. Okay. Now for someone like a Javon Kinlaw, I don't know. Because Javon Kinlaw at this point in his career has been more of a journeyman and who's more like a plug and play more than a franchise type of defensive lineman who can get you 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or even 10 sacks a season, right? And it definitely shows. Now it's not to say that he can't get it. He can just have he could have a crazy season like this upcoming season, and then next thing you know, someone's gonna be like, oh, okay, here's the money right here. So I say all that to say this: defensive linemen are starting to be valued more. And if you're a team, drafts one in the first round, they're not. There's no need for you to really be upset because defensive linemen now are starting to become bigger, are starting to become more nimble. They're starting to be more athletic. They're starting to be, somewhat undersized a little bit, but you don't allow that undersized to, to sort of like steer you away, if that makes sense, right? When you look at, for instance, Kalijah Cansey, right? Perfect example. Kalijah Cansey, when he was coming out, I was head over heels for Kalijah Cansey because I was like, yo, this dude is super fast. He had, one of the fastest 40 times for a defensive tackle and whatnot. I'm like, yo, he pops out. But since then, I mean, he probably really hasn't done a whole lot. But, at some point, he's going to pop off. He is. And so, defensive coordinators are starting to value pass rushers and defensive linemen more. They are. Even GMs, that's why they're putting more money into them because they realize that, guess what? Offensive coordinators are starting to run the ball more. So with them running the ball more, you need to counteract that. What's the best way to counteract that? Defensive line. Defensive line. Now, it's not to say that there's going to be a bunch of Chris Joneses and, Aaron Donalds coming out of the league for the next few years. But if you get someone that's productive and consistent, someone like a Kenny Clark, if you get someone like a Kenny Clark on your defensive line, whew, man, oh man, do you got problems. You got big problems. All right. So I'll leave that be. Now I'm just letting you guys know this episode is not going to be that long, but just because I don't want to, give you guys just these long drawn out episodes. I'm going to try to keep things as compact as I possibly can. Plus, this is going to be a double episode upload. That's right, double episode upload. So stay tuned, folks. Now, moving on to the breaking news with Jordan Love. So according to the Athletic, Diana Rossini, shout out to her, shout out to the Athletic. They definitely do a lot of great reporting. Jordan Love is holding out of training camp until he gets a deal done. Now, let me stop you right there before you freak out, okay? All you Packers fans, before you freak out, before you hit that red button that's to your left or to your right, relax, okay? This is just out of precaution. This is not because he's disgruntled with the organization. This is he's not going to fall down into Aaron Rodgers, okay? So everybody breath, woosah for a bit, okay? Breathe. Drink you some water, okay? Relax. I'm going to explain why, okay? So with him holding out, that's basically precaution because he's trying to get a deal done, okay? And so with him trying to get a deal done, he's probably going to hold out just because, hey, freak things can happen where he can be in training camp and he drops backs one time and then guess what? Blows out his knee or tears Achilles or anything crazy like that. We literally saw the line, we saw, who was it? Dre Greenlaw? I think it was. Dre Greenlaw in the Super Bowl literally tear his Achilles from just walking on the field. That's all he did. He didn't do anything crazy. All he did was getting himself ready to go out on the field, and he just went out on the field, boop, and he just tore it. So, but I will say this in this situation is very unique because both the GM and the agent have somewhat confirmed that they are close to getting a deal done. They said probably within the next few days they'll probably get one. So who is to say, maybe it'll happen, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Who knows? But I will say this. The Packers are definitely one of the outliers when it comes to the quarterback position, right? You are talking about a team who really has, hit when it comes to quarterbacks. It's and I want to put it into a perspective like this, right? They had Bart Starr, okay, cool. Then you had Brett Favre, cool. Then you had Aaron Rodgers, cool. Now you got Jordan Love, all right. Think about that for a second. Remember. I remember clear as day. People were losing their minds off of that, off of the draft, and I'm chuckling about it because I was watching the Pat McAfee show because they were live streaming it, and one of the guys that actually work for Pat McAfee, one of his friends was just losing his mind because he's like, yo, we could have gotten a receiver, we could have gotten this, we could have gotten that, but we got Jordan Love. And when you really look at it, it was a blessing in disguise because now when you really look at it, the Packers in some ways have won that trade with Aaron Rodgers because now you have a young productive quarterback who basically, played a full season very well, and his stats show it. All right, when you look at his stats for this past season, just this past season, right? He had a 64.2% completion percentage. Excuse me. He was 372 completed passes out of 529 attempted passes. He had 4,159 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. He had a 47.6 passing percentage, right? Now, when you think of passing percentage, you're probably wondering, what is that? Well, I will inform you because as my GM, it is my duty to inform you of these new things, right? So, passing success rate, right, is basically the successful pass gains at least 40% of yards required on the first down, 60% of yards required on second down, and 100% on third or fourth downs, according to Pro Football Reference. Shout out to them, right? And so I say all that to say this. That Packers team has not lost a beat. It hasn't. It's actually, they are a very dangerous offense because what you're seeing is Jordan Love has already shown like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I don't care what anyone says. I know there were a lot of people. I know there's a lot of, haysayers, naysayers, people saying this, people saying that, people saying I couldn't do it, people saying that, they should get rid of him and just keep Aaron Rodgers. But guess what? I can do it. I'm here. I'm that guy. I am him. Himothy, Hemitron, Hemi Williams, right? Hemi Jordan. That's who I am. That's what he's shown. That's what he's showing. And so, he has to be fairly compensated for that. I would probably say the best thing for him was for him to sit under Aaron Rodgers because it allowed him to be able to see the various, situations that you're going to have to endure with being a franchise quarterback. It does. And, history has shown that the Packers have handled the quarterback transition fairly well. They had Aaron Rodgers sit under Brett Favre. They had Jordan Love sit under Aaron Rodgers. In my mind, both of those situations played out fairly well. It really did. Now, who is to say that, Jordan Love will continue to do the same thing? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I keep telling you guys that my crystal ball is still charging. It is on the right side. It was in the right corner of my office. Okay, it's in the right corner of my office, still charging. It's about at what? 65? 65? Okay, yeah, 60%. Okay. So I'm saying all that to say this. Jordan Love has definitely wowed a lot of people. And he's going to continue to do it. He is. You're talking about somebody who is going toe to toe with some of the best offenses in his own division. Not in the league, in his own division. When you look at the Lions offense, that's top tier. When you look at the Vikings offense, that's top tier. When you look at the Bears, they have the potential, not right now, potential to be a top offense. That's a lot. That is a whole lot. Now, who was to say that, it'll be this somewhat offensive frenzy within that division? Do I believe it's going to happen? Possibly. But the only difference is, out of all of those teams, right? The Bears, the Lions, and the Packers are the only three teams that actually have defenses to make a critical stop. The Vikings really don't. But who knows? Maybe things will change. But I'm going to say all that to say this, right? When you look at Jordan Love's market value, right? Jordan Love's market value is 4 years, $211.8 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. If you would have told me that we would be having quarterback deals that would crest over the $100 million mark, even the $200 million mark, I would have called you a liar. I would have laughed at you until I couldn't breathe. But it's now become a norm. Now, does Jordan Love deserve all of that money? Yes and no. I would probably say they still need probably a few more pieces just to like really make them like, more than a playoff team, possibly a Super Bowl team. I do think, and I still do believe that if a quarterback does take a little bit less, it gives the team flexibility to go after, a top tier player just to really change things up and to really boost their odds of, making a deep playoff run, right? Now, is there a chance that, Jordan Love could take less? Yes, it is a possibility, but who is to say that he will get another opportunity like this to be making this type of money, right? So, congratulations to Jordan Love, because I know he's going to get his deal fairly soon, and when he does, we will definitely report on that. But I'm going to end the episode here. If you guys like what you are listening, please leave a 5-star review on this on whatever streaming platform that you guys listen to. Oh, by the way, shout out to Spotify, shout out to RSS feed, shout out to everywhere that we are able to distribute the fix that all of us football junkies need. Thank you so much for that. Now, back to what I was saying. You can follow us on all of our streaming, or all of our, not streaming, but all of our social media handles. They are football_junkies pod. Again, that is football_junkies pod. Junkies pod is put together. There's no space. You can follow us on YouTube as well. Football_junkies pod as well. Pretty soon we're going to try to figure out how we can start doing some YouTube content strictly for the YouTube people. And then maybe we can probably try to see we can start doing some stuff for TikTok as well to, interact with you guys a little bit more. We can have debate about a few things. I would love to, debate with you guys about, various topics like, why, TJ Watt is the best defensive player in the league. Do not argue with me. Just know that is a fact, not fiction, but a fact. Okay. And why the Pittsburgh Steelers may possibly, I gotta crack myself up when I say this, may possibly make a deep playoff run. Who knows? But as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I understand this is probably a little bit short, but just work with me, okay? Just work with me. We're gonna be pushing out more content for you guys, all right? Because guess what? Things are about to heat up. Because why? Everybody is reporting to training camp, and you know what that means. more people reporting, which means more bag alerts, which means more celebration of bag alerts, which means more content for you guys, which means everybody is happy. And as always, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys so much. Shout out to everybody that is listening to this, from the people in Europe. That's right, we got Football Junkies followers in Europe. We got people in the Philippines. We got people in Canada. We got people on the West Coast. We got people on the East Coast. We got people in, what do you call people in the middle part of America? I don't know, but we're going to call you junkies. Shout out to you guys as well. As always, I love you guys. Peace and love. I am out. Later.